about this is from the moment Jesus started sharing the gospel, he always told people
Right.
to live as though the time is near.
Right.
And so it has, a lot of people took that and said, oh, because he's talking about, his return.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more about our state of living that he's
Got it.
referring to.
Got it.
There's something.
Wait, let's unpack that because I want to make sure that we got that. Even in Jesus saying what he said, because he's a master teacher. He
Yes.
is. We see him do it time and time again. He makes a statement that on first glance you think it is for him.
Yes,
Really, it's for you.
it's for you.
So building up this urgency, yes, it's because any day now he could come back, but at the same time, there's a way that he wants you to live, and this way of living will preserve the good things that he's given us.
Well, and you can start to unpack that even more, because let's just answer the first question. Most people say, "Oh, that's being said to invoke fear." Well, God has given you a spirit of fear, so you can immediately kick that one out the door. He's
Right.
not saying live as though the time is near
Got
to
you.
invoke fear into your
Right.
daily life.
Wow. Yeah.
Anything that he's saying is
Yeah.
so that you can live and have life more abundantly.
That's good.
So what am I supposed to be? What in that statement makes my everyday life more abundant
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
becomes the question that has to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
And that started the journey.
Got it.
That it's not to invoke fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to cause us to be friends. It's not to do. It's about there's something good that
Right.
happens to a Christian
Yeah.
that lives as though the return is near.
Yeah. In my mind, more and more, I'm seeing this. I get this image of the Christian's mind is like, you hear things over the years, and we used to say, you put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
I heard it. I'm gonna put it on the shelf. What I'm seeing more is like, no, it's a whole suitcase.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole trunk, right? And there's good stuff in there. Over time, I get to unload what's in there. And when you're talking about this right now, it's like we're unloading
Yeah.
the things that we've heard that maybe we didn't fully understand when we heard it, but now those things are being unpacked. The urgency
Yeah.
of Christ coming
Yeah.
is being unpacked now in a more livable way. to
And I'd
live
say
better.
there's even more, and we kind of talked a little bit of Sunday. There's a little. It takes a lot of work, and we're still working on it because unfortunately, it's not the first time we heard it. The whole doctrine I was taught behind living as though his return was near was 100% fear
right,
invoked.
right,
Like it was like no, it was mostly only shared when salvation was coming,
right,
and it was all about getting saved
Right.
because he could come back tonight.
right,
And I know I shared those examples at Sunday to where it's like, man, I'm getting saved 4 and 5 times. I'm doing things because when this was first said to me, it was said to me literally if I'm to produce fear in my heart to
Right.
get me to respond, which we already know. We should have known when we heard it. Something is wrong,
Right.
right?
Right.
If fear is being used to spread God's word, because He hasn't given us a spirit of fear. I know we've talked about it before that if God uses fear, He has to move you. He has used fear to sustain you.
Right.
Like these are not
That's good.
the methods
Yeah.
of the kingdom. But we didn't catch it then. Why? Because people were doing what you wanted them to do. And so because that got people saved, that was doing what people wanted to do, let's just let it do
Let's
what it's
keep
doing until we
keep
end up
using
with
it.
bad product. And it's like,
Exactly.
wait a minute, why is this product bad? Because essentially, carelessness,
Right.
numbness,
Call it what it is. Right.
started to set in. It's like, you told me and my grandma and my grandma's grandma
Yep.
that I needed to get saved because he's coming like a thief in the night and he can come at any moment. Well, we're
Right.
200 years removed
Right.
and he's not returned. So what do people do?
Right. That urgency starts to.
The urgency starts to
fade
go
away.
down. And it's like, and then you realize, oh man, like, well, I can't remove what he said because he said what he said.
Right.
What we received was wrong
That's good.
because he didn't say it
Mm-hmm.
for no reason.
Right.
How we tried to apply it
Yeah.
was so inaccurate that we
Mhm.
couldn't even get the good from it.
Right.
Um,
There it is right there. And this is the deeper dive. So I don't have to feel like I have to put the brakes on.
yeah.
Because that's another issue that it created. You gave me this message in this way. You use fear in order to motivate me. But you also told me that the good shepherd came so that I might have life and have it more abundantly, enjoy it, to overflow
Yeah.
till it's filled, running over, and all of that. How are these two things living together?
Yeah.
And I may not have said it out loud, but in my mind, I'm having this conflict
Yeah.
with trying to live out this thing with this fear motivation. And at the same time, he came that I enjoy life, and it's conflicting.
it's conflicting.
So now we get to some clarity.
Yeah, and so of course that's where, in all those times, right? You have to go back to where he said it.
Yeah. Right.
And say, okay, let's open up this book and
Mhm.
and let's go back and let's go back and let's read it, and God with a fresh heart,
Mhm.
with a renewed mind,
Mhm.
you know, since we're here, applying some of our new and known inductive study methods.
That's right.
Let's go back, and since we're not
Yeah.
just reading words and
Mhm.
we're really trying to gain what's being said, let's apply some of that and let's
Right.
see what we come
That's
out
right.
with.
Let's make a connection.
Right.
Right.
And
Mhm.
when you go back and you start to say, wait a minute, I don't
That's
even
good.
see the word fear.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I don't even see in this whole chapter of Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly the goal wasn't to bring fear.
Right.
And of course I'll read some of it. He says this, right? Now, I'll read 28. Now, learn a lesson. I didn't read this on Sunday, so I'll read now. Now, learn a lesson from the fig tree when its branches bud and its leaves begin to sprout. You know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things taking place, you can know that the return is very near,
That's
right
good.
at the door. I'll tell you the truth. This generation will not pass away. Will not pass from the scene before all these things take place. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear. However, no one knows the day or the hour when these things will happen. Not even the angels in heaven nor the Son himself. Only the Father knows. And since you do not know when the time will come, be on guard. Stay alert. The coming of the Son of Man can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. When he left home, look at. He talks about the which this should stick out to you. He's talking about Jesus talking about his return, and then he references the fig tree. First of all,
Yep.
you can't just skip over that. Why is he talking about the fig tree and his return?
Mm-hmm.
Right. He says, when you left home, he gave each of his slaves instructions about the work they were to do, and he told the gatekeeper to watch for his return. You too must keep watch, for you do not know when the master of the household will return, in the evening, at midnight, before dawn, or dusk or break. Do not let him find you sleeping when he arrives without warning. I say to everyone, watch for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so first of all, like I say, there's nothing in, first of all, you're reading this, it's not even talking about judgment.
Right. Right.
It's not even saying fear. The word fear is not in here. The amazing part is, which you would think you would hear, it doesn't even mention repentance.
Wow. Right. Nope. None of the things that go
None of
along
the things.
with
What you
judgment.
actually, if you use an inductive study methods that we learn in
Bible
Wednesday
study.
night Bible study,
Yes.
if you look at this, you
At 7
realize
o'clock right here at
the
Tampa
most
campus.
predominant theme that you find in Mark 13 is a changing of seasons.
That's good.
A changing of seasons. A changing of seasons. That what you see being ministered here is Jesus saying, listen, you cannot live life unaware. You must be aware of what's happening around you. You must pay attention to the seasons. He mentions the fig tree because he says, I knew the fig tree was dead because it wasn't producing in its season.
That's good.
He mentioned the master leaving because you should be accountable, but you got to be aware to be accountable, to know what you should be accountable to. You have to be aware to know this is happening, but I shouldn't fear this. He already said this was going to happen.
Right.
Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will not fail. What is he saying? He's saying that you can trust my word even when things are changing.
That's
Right?
good.
Like you're what you're not hearing is fear, judgment, repentance. Like these are not words here.
That's good. That's good.
And so it makes us have to stop and say, wait a minute. Are we getting the good out of why he's asking us to live as though his return is near?
Got it. Right.
And that began the conversation. That began the conversation with God. That began the dive into, let's talk about this, God. We have to get life out of this. You know, and where many people have seen judgment and death, you've been trying to minister life.
I want to get to something else
Okay.
too. Thank you for walking us through that. Something that you know, I like to keep before us is even a part of your method of preparing a message. You shared with us before that the first thing that you do is connect. You look to make that connection. As you walked us through that, it seemed like that's a pattern that God was making too. Like, man, let me connect with you on something.
I've never seen, you know, and I would mirror it, right? So on Sunday, you know, I know you love these types of things and knows these types of things, but there was more than normal in a message. I was trying to give examples, you know, from I talked about football, I talked about Amber, I talked about, it was so many references. And reason being is, you see how many references Jesus used when trying to connect people to why living though the time is near. Like he was fig trees. The watch and pray is actually a reference to the watch and pray in the garden. Like he's dropping dime after dime of like, hey, this is example after example. And so it's once again pointing towards us living aware.
That's good.
You know, but yeah, Pastor Mike.
No, that's good. And then after the connection is made, and I missed what's the next one? I know before we get to correction, there's one in between there.
Yeah. So no correction. Like if you connect well,
You can
There we
correct.
go.
All right.
So
and I see that's coming next.
my teaching pattern is connect, correct, encourage,
Got it.
and
Okay.
then in some way inspire, right?
Okay.
Some way inspire.
All right. So then I see the thing, and again, looking at our relationship with Jesus through the right lens, the correction is not to get you, aha, got you, but he's actually correcting something. He's correcting a thing, a thought, a way of thinking, a way of acting. That's what he begins to correct. The correction is you've thought wrong on my urgency, or whether or not I'm even urgent. Right? You've used all these church cliches to mask urgency and accept delay. The correction is, but I've already done things. I've already done something that you should be responding to now.
And you see that same you see that same pattern even when we were reading. So we went over to Matthew and reading of the parable of the talent. You see that thing. So what Jesus connects, and then he brings in the person who buried the treasure.
Right.
And so he connects, then he
Oh, that's
corrects
good.
through the person, right?
Yeah.
But then he corrects what he thought, then connects with how what he thought is what we be thinking.
Yeah.
But then he encouraged him by saying, but that is not how I think.
Yeah. Right. That's good.
But then he inspires by saying that, like, man, no, I will multiply. You know, I will tell that the one who did nothing to hand it over to you. You know, and so that becomes the pattern. You know, the thing about Sunday is it's always interesting. Is like, and especially in between first and second service, is there's the message, then there's the ministry. And like, you know, so the message starts, and normally right when we get to crossing out of that connect and it's time to correct, that it's like the room, it gets wild,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it gets
Mhm.
wild
Mhm.
because now there's an active conversation taking place
Mhm.
between God and His people.
Right.
A lot of it is in some
It's
form
an
of
active
preparation.
conversation.
It was
That's good.
there.
Yeah.
It was there.
Mhm.
But it can go deeper.
Mhm.
And I would say what became very deeper in service that wasn't as deep when
There we go.
when
Right.
I was studying
Mhm.
is there's such thing as there's holy fear of God. There's a reverence we
Mhm.
live in with God, and
Mhm.
we talked about it at the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
and talked about I will live holy, and
Mhm.
how like, man, like this once you, and I did an example a couple weeks ago, even show it like that the closer you get to God, two things happen. Yes, the good comes, but also a revealing of your state, like your weakness, becomes far more present. Why? Because we celebrate the love, but we forget that He also brings light. And
Mhm.
so the closer you get to His love, the
Mhm.
closer you got to His light,
Mhm.
which means that as a person who's living close to God, I'm very illuminated, which what does
Mhm.
illumination does? I mean, if you turn up the lights in this room, you're going to
Mhm.
start to see the dust particles.
Mhm.
You right? You
Mhm.
know, and you can start to choke on your inadequacies. That's
Mhm.
why Paul had to learn how to boast in his,
Mhm.
right? Because when you get this, start to grow closer to
Mhm.
God, you also become more aware of like how much you need God.
Yeah.
Well, what does needing God means? It means that I'm fully, clearly present of what I'm inadequate of.
Right.
And so I am subsequently, in response of knowing what I'm inadequate of,
Mhm.
I'm very secure in my need of Him in my life.
Right.
But to get there, it takes a clear representation
Mhm.
of your inadequacies.
Right.
You know, but not to hold you back.
Right.
And that's what it took more time on Sunday, once again,
Mhm.
to realize that, guys, just because you don't have it all together doesn't mean you can't move forward.
Right.
Matter of fact, the closer you get to God, truth of the matter is the more you'll start realizing how much you don't have together.
Right.
The
Right.
byproduct of relationship with God is becoming more dependent on Him.
Right.
The only way to become more dependent on Him is to become more aware of where you need His
Of
His
your
power.
weakness. Right.
Right. So in order for me to grow in
Right.
dependency, I
Mhm.
have to also, going back to
See
your message,
myself.
come back to your message, humble myself
Right. Right.
to the fact that
Right.
without Him,
Mhm.
I am nothing.
Yeah.
Like the closer
Man,
you become,
that's
the
good.
more you become God conscious, the also the less you become self conscious, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like I don't need me.
Mhm.
I can fully depend on God.
Mhm.
And when you start doing that, that's when you start realizing that, well, going back to the title,
There's no need to wait.
there's no need to wait. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Satan is crazy.
Mhm.
Satan is crazy. Like, Satan is so crazy. What time we got? I'm gonna tell you, this joker, he be slicker than slick.
Yeah.
Um,
But if he be found.
but if
go
you
ahead.
found, right?
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna
You
tell
got
you, like, this is why it is so imperative
Mhm.
in this day and age.
Mhm.
Know the season. Know the
That's good.
season that you guard your mind with truth.
Right. Mhm.
Do you know that Sunday morning when I'm preparing to teach this message, that there was a lady 5 years ago who came to me after I taught a message on a Wednesday night. The title of the message was "Free to Proceed Without Caution."
Yep.
She came to me on Thursday and said, I listened to your message. I did what you said, and everything turned out wrong.
The devil is a lie. Come on.
Now,
What? Yes.
obviously, there's a lot in that, right?
Right.
Even coming from like, so what did you do?
Mhm.
What like there's a lot in that.
Right.
I'm simply bringing it up to say
Mhm.
that 4 years later,
Right.
I'm going to preach a message
Mhm.
that has similar tones.
Right.
In this incident, that is, I don't even know where I didn't store. Obviously, it's somewhere in there.
Right. Right.
Like,
Mhm.
literally, it became like crystal clear, and it was like, better not preach this.
Mhm.
I'm saying that to say that if the thief be found,
Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
that, man, that is another moment where you have to sit down and say, I'm not preaching this.
That's right. Mhm.
I don't have the intelligence to preach this.
Mhm. Mhm.
God
Mhm.
is speaking through me.
Mhm.
This isn't my message.
Mhm.
This is his
His.
message.
Mhm.
This isn't my word. This is his word. This isn't my truth.
Stay on my grind. You can heal the blind, you can heal this mind. You are on my side. Heartbreak comes sometimes, sorrow's not too kind, but I stay on my grind. You can heal the blind, you can heal this mind. You are on my side. I had feelings I regret last year. Missing puzzle pieces, had to shed those tears. Really didn't face my fears. Knew you had my back, but if I'm honest, I just couldn't chill. Knew you had the will, but can I steer? Inside really dirty, want it clear. Holy Spirit knocking and I hear.